Hello everybody and welcome back to another malware video. Today we're going to be taking a look at something submitted from a viewer. I believe this also came from YouTube. This is another version that the file name, and I'm not sure if the password was added by my viewer or the original authors, is softpatch v2.0.0.raw. Now, Windows Defender, I'll extract it again the normal way first of all. Both Google Chrome and Windows Defender are smart enough to catch this one out of the box now. Now this file has existed for a while, so it doesn't mean they were on time, and it's catching it as a, let's set it to allow on device because we do actually want to run it. See if it's still here. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is virus total it, because that's always a good idea whenever you have a suspicious file. First thing you should do is run it on virus total. Everything is hitting. Okay. So 4 days ago. So Microsoft is seemingly getting more on the case. Sentinel, malicious SFX, Trojan, script KD, spyware agent, behaves like Win32. So that's good. Behavior analysis is one of the better ways of catching malware, because rather than just saying that this is a piece of malware, it's able to determine that it behaves like one. So RadXGen, this is seemingly another one of the YouTube spreaders. So you can see more, it's importing. Let's look at what it's actually doing. Let's just look at JujuBox because that's relatively consistent. So we're hitting a web server. Let's just see what this is doing. And it's, this is some data. Let's just, because it's always fun to run this stuff. Always fun to see where we're going. Seemingly, is this a legit? Because you can really easily spoof a 404. Let's first of all find out. Let's find out who this belongs to. So this is a server that is based in Russia. NetSpeed, okay. Company, I just want to know. So, ASC IoT. Is this cloud? Is this actually... Because I'm trying to figure out what sort of... If this is... Is this cloud hosting? No, maybe it is. Because I'm trying to figure out where this is being hosted and what they're doing. Shared computing environment. Subscriber. Provided with an isolated place for storing data. Processing. Okay. So you're not allowed to use this for anything other than these things. But of course... These people do not give a fuck what they're told to do, but officially then this is intended to be basically a VPS hosting for IoT hosting. So you can get it isolated with virtualization. Okay. So you're not allowed to mine cryptocurrencies. Okay, so you are allowed to do pretty much anything. And you can use this. Oh, still prohibited. Still prohibited. Oh, so you're able to... I'm totally confused why they would have such rules against, like, running a game server, which is a pretty normal thing to do with a VPS. So, this is an OpenVZ, which is a VM. I assume these are Russian rubles, which are not worth a huge amount of money. Last I checked. Yeah, that's $2. So, alright, so these are a couple of dollars. So, this is just an inexpensive Russian-based hosting service. They don't even have a domain because I guess they don't waste their money on it. So what we can determine is that this operation is almost certainly based in Russia. They're doing some DNS, ip.info, and that's just common because they always like to look up your IP address whenever you run any of these types of malwares, and that makes sense because they do want to see what you're doing. So they're saving some stuff. Copied, saves host. So let's watch. Let's just do our... and set this up so that we can see everything. Because by default, and to me, this is always, to me, the fact that Windows hides extensions and has hidden folders hidden by default, to me, is a stupid thing. I can understand hidden folders, but Hiding file extensions inherently plays into the interests of malware distributors. No other operating system does this by default. I have no idea why Microsoft thinks this is a good thing to do. I could see it in the Windows XP era, maybe, when security wasn't as big of a concern and people weren't as familiar, but there's no reason to do that. It is inherently dangerous. So that is not a folder that exists by default. So we're going to see what happens now. Files dropped. Secure default base. So it seems to be uploading onto this PHP file, which is never a good sign. Saves host, so this is more of this malware. So it's creating these exes, creating a batch file. Okay, so I'd say let's just see if it's debug aware, because that can sometimes stop us in our tracks. Does not appear to be VM aware, which is good. Does check network adapters though, so that could be a sign of... Because one of the things they can do is just see if your MAC address matches the default VMware one. It's really easy to get around that, we can change it, but let's just run this. Okay. Just copy the payload here, because this is sort of the interesting part. What does the VBE script do? As far as I know, Visual VB script encoded. Is there a way of decoding this? Okay, so here we go. Decode VBE script. So there are people other people who've been attempting to decode this. So let's just toss this onto VirusTotal, the actual payload, which, looking at the size of it relative to the size of the original file, let's just see. Yeah, so this is probably, in fact, if we 7-zip this, we might even just find this file interesting. So the exe is basically just a drop for these files. Now, this malware is relatively sloppy because it doesn't delete these files. Most delete the track of their existence, but that might mean that it constantly runs. So this is hitting even more. So you can see behavior. How does this one run? This is the actual payload that does the real work. So this one is sending this data. We can assume that's related to the stuff on the computer. So let's see. So it's stealing your that's kind of random, because Acrobat, it steals Chrome, Firefox, possibly other browsers that weren't installed. And it seemingly probably uploads all of this onto secure default base. It's opening a couple of registry files, and then it does terminate audio service. Doesn't seem... Let's check, because scheduled tasks is usually where you find sketchy remnants of sketchy software. Nothing obvious here. Could look at auto runs, but so far so good on this not rerunning itself, which would be super weird because you assume logically that's why they would design it this way. So nothing so far out of the ordinary, because we're looking for any signs of saves host DLL driver into monitor.exe. Sounds nefarious. That sounds like something that actually is like embedding this deep into the system, but it doesn't actually seem to be doing that. The VBE file is the one I'm the most interested in, so I'm going to see if I can decode that. Apparently, what I can't tell is when they say only works on Windows XP, do they mean as in because this was made such a long time ago when that would have been... Because looking at the fact they're using XP, I'm going to assume this is... I was right. Oh wait, only works on Windows XP. So it cannot run on anything newer. Let's just see if that's really true. We can just fake it. We can just say this is Windows XP. See? It's so funny that it works. So what does this even do? I'm not an expert on VBScript, but okay. Create object wst.shell. So that, I don't know why it does that twice. So basically what it does is it's creating this object, then it's waiting 7 seconds, and then it's creating that object again for no good reason, and then it's promptly running the batch file, which is this batch file, and it's also all hard-coded to the C drive, which is not a smart way to design it, because if your Windows drive is not C, this program will fail, which is a common way to thwart a shocking amount of malware that is coded poorly. So then we go to this, which simply runs this. Now, why these files exist is something I'm having a hard time understanding. And then this is simply the actual payload, which is contained within this one. Now, of course, if we go back and cease allowing this, and then promptly run a scan, all of these files will hopefully be deleted. So this seems to be a relatively simple malware. This one, I believe, was distributed as a Roblox. Okay. We're going to nuke all of these. This was distributed as a fake Roblox hack, and it works pretty much the same, but it's a bit different. The most interesting thing is that it's creating a folder, so it's clearly a new creation. I cannot imagine why they bothered going to the trouble of encrypting all of this. Okay, it's removed it from documents, hasn't removed the C drive version, which is probably the most important one. Now, of course, if we run this, nuked instantly. And if we run this, okay, it's nuked, good. So, I assume the first exe was some sort of failed attempt at crypting, which didn't work at all. Windows Defender immediately detected what this was, which is really good, because when I first started making these videos on these YouTube spread stealer malwares, none of them were detected by Windows Defender. Now, pretty much all of them are detected by Windows Defender, which is great progress. It's going to make this a lot more difficult. Unfortunately, people looking for game hacks are somewhat conditioned to expect these kind of issues, which is a problem, because then they're going to think, okay, it's okay, but it adds a barrier. It adds a barrier. So here we go. We've even got people who are shilling Roblox hacks who are YouTubers. That's wonderful. Do it, guys. Shill your young audience potentially dangerous stuff. This is what they look like. And sometimes they will say to disable your antivirus because of a false positive. Sometimes they won't, but you know, I think it's harder to convince people to do that versus just it not showing up as a virus, so I'm hopeful this will reduce the amount of people falling victim to these scams. Please remember, never ever install these things. No legitimate hacks distribute like this. I strongly recommend that you do not install what you think are legitimate hacks. If you are insistent on cheating at video games, I am not going to give like direct advice because I don't really support this, but my advice is go and find community forums for whatever game you're looking to hack and look around there, because then, like, verify the website. General rule, make an account yourself and just verify that you can actually post on the website, because that is the only place you are going to find anything legitimate. A censored website or YouTube video is not an acceptable place to download any sort of software, because it is very likely fake. That's going to be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please please don't download any of this malware. I would like to see this trend end and these people stop being so successful, because they are stealing your entire account cookies. They are probably intending on doing more harm than just using your YouTube account to spread their malware. That's going to be all for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye.